Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts has announced her latest proposal to tax the wealthy. And our next guest says the idea is already having a far-reaching negative impact. David Lesperance is an attorney. Among his specialties, helping Americans who are considering fleeing this country's worst tax policies. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Mitch.
You sent me an email the other day, and it started with this. Well, now the gauntlet has been thrown down. And you made that statement in connection with this latest proposal from Senator Warren. Tell us what it's all about and why it has you concerned.
Well, it's the Ultra-Millionaire's Tax proposal, which is looking at levying a wealth tax, 2% between 50 million and 1 billion, 3% for everything over 1 billion. The problem is that Americans, like any other country which has wealth tax, can leave the jurisdiction and avoid this tax. The problem with that for the rest of the people that are left behind is that top group are super contributors on an annual basis to the US tax coffers. So if you try to grab some more money, they will be able to easily get around it. Not only do you not get the windfall, you've lost the existing revenue that you're counting on from that group.
One of the things that some people who might support this type of tax will say is, that sounds all right in theory, but most Americans are going to stay here. They're going to pay their taxes like good citizens should. You have on the ground examples of people looking at these types of policies and saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to find a way to not have to pay this bill.
Well, you actually don't even have to rely on me. The government itself publishes the list of wealthy Americans that give up their US citizenship, and that has been hitting record numbers. And that was before the pandemic. What COVID has done is it's had people overcome what I call life inertia. There are many people who couldn't imagine life outside of Manhattan or Silicon Valley who were really driven out. And as they sat in the Hamptons or somewhere else, they had enough distance to sit down and say, well, I can keep my business and personal lifestyle going here. I'm now starting to listen to the politicians and what they have in store for me in the future. The first move would be, as we've seen the move of people to places like Florida and Texas, but a body in motion tends to stay in motion. So those people are saying, well, that will deal with the state tax, but what about the federal tax? And for that record number of people who are expatriating, I would say I have 7 to 10 clients who are preparing what I call backup plans, which will give them the ability, should they choose to leave in the future.
And I understand that right after Senator Warren announced this latest plan, you got a handful of inquiries within a day or two of people saying, hey, I need to look into this, even if I don't end up making the move.
I had 5 inquiries. And again, the people that are being impacted on this are a minimum 50 million in assets and tends to be significantly north of that. I had 5 inquiries the very next day within 24 hours, 3 of which were from Silicon Valley. One was a venture capitalist who is saying, well, carried interest is going to be gone. And not only that, I'm going to get hit. Others were saying capital gains tax will certainly go. I'd rather pay 23.4% or 23.8% than 39% if they increase the capital gain. And gee, if I wait, Senator Warren has proposed 40% tax on me on a worldwide basis, not just on my capital gains. So I better get out while the getting's good.
You mentioned this earlier, but I want to go back to it. This not only has an impact on us losing people who are major contributors to our economy, this also has the effect of impacting anyone else who benefits from the types of businesses or investments that these folks make. It's not just saying, oh, we lose this super productive person in our economy, but it hurts anyone else who has dealings with this person or family.
Oh, absolutely, because those people not only are not being super contributors to the tax coffers in the future, their capital is gone, their expertise, their connections, etc. They're taking elsewhere. And that has a dramatic effect on those who are left behind.
Including, unless the federal government cuts back its spending, the rest of us are going to have to pay the part of the bill that these folks are no longer paying.
Well, the top 1% in the United States pay about 40% of the total amount of personal taxes collected. The United States collects a lot of more personal tax than other jurisdictions like Canada or the UK or European, because the United States does not have a value-added tax to help buffer that. So they have an extraordinary reliance on personal tax, and they have an extraordinary reliance on a very small number of people. And as the 1% becomes the 0.1% or the 0.1%, even 0.1% are still contributing about 10 to 12% of the total tax revenue. You only need a few of them to leave to have a dramatic asymmetric negative impact on that tax collection. So not only, again, do you not get the windfall that Senator Warren is busy spending, but you lose the existing revenue that you already have been counting on.
Now, bad tax policies like this sound like they would be good for your business because you help advise people who are thinking about these things. But why, from your vantage point, is it important to point out just how negative the consequences are for these types of proposals?
They are very good for me, but they're not very good for the United States. They're very popular, as any, the old saw of "don't tax you, don't tax me, tax the fellow behind the tree." Well, people are saying, well, it's not going to affect me, so sure, go ahead. But it will affect them, because the loss of the tax revenue, the coffers just won't be there. When you have people like Mayor de Blasio saying, well, we're going to increase the New York City tax, and you've got huge numbers of people who decamped out of New York during the height of the pandemic, who are now moving to Florida. Well, you've got fewer and fewer golden geese, and the more you raise it, the more they're going to go. And that will have, and New York City relies extraordinarily upon a small number of taxpayers to fund its operations.
Well, this is certainly a topic that everyone ought to be concerned about. We have quoted from some of your writing at the John Locke Foundation's Locker Room blog, but if people would like to learn more, I know you've written several pieces about this. I imagine they can find them at your website. If that's so, tell the folks how they should access your material.
Sure. The name is long and convoluted, and hopefully you'll put it up. But if they just Google Lesperance, Lesperance, Associates, they'll come to the webpage. We have a very active blog section and some white papers that people will find interesting. And in the media section, there is a number of different articles and interviews that'll get them a very good sense. We have an info address there that they can send their inquiries at. I respond to them all the time. And I give a large number of free consultations so that you can really figure out for people whether this is something they should consider contemplating, and they can get a good idea of what a backup plan is involved with for wealthy Americans.
David Lesperance is an attorney, and as we've said, this type of tax policy is great for his business, not necessarily very good for the American economy, but we thank you so much for taking time to talk to us about it.
Thank you.